Hello, hello. Mr. P here, and today I'm going to do something a little different and kind of give my thoughts on my all-time favorite band's new album just released yesterday, Aghori Mhori Mei from the Smashing Pumpkins. Hey there, and welcome to episode 12 of Cup of Tea with Mr. P. So today is Saturday, August 3rd, and like many Smashing Pumpkin fans, I'm pretty ecstatic about a new album from my all-time favorite band. I've seen a lot of chatter online about the album and kind of wanted to throw in my thoughts on the new record. Before we get into my latest little rant here, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button below. Probably doesn't mean much to you, but the YouTube algorithm is not a friend of mine. So, button, down there. Thanks. Yay. So, about 2 weeks ago, the Smashing Pumpkins announced that on August 2nd, they were going to put out this new album, Aghori Mhori Mei, on streaming platforms with physical editions available for, well, order, announced that day, giving fans a decision to decide how much they felt the album was worth to them. Free available via streaming, or pay for your choice of physical copy in CD or vinyl formats. So Billy Corgan essentially described it as seeing if the band could go back home to the way things were in the 90s heyday. Right away, this kind of signaled to the fans, hey, is this the guitar-driven album that he's been talking about releasing the past year or so? Right away, fans just assumed, well, many of their wishes could come true and they would get that Siamese Dream Part 2. So the thing goes up and, yes, it's the guitar-driven, non-synth-filled album. Yay! But, is it what we were expecting of them? Songs like the album opener, Eden, War Dreams of Itself, Sycorax, and the album's first single, Xiaomi, have had many fans describing it as having a toolish tone to them. Now, this kind of tonal shift isn't exactly something that's super new to the band, though, either. It's been pretty prevalent in their sound since, I want to say 2002, on the first act of Autumn, but I think that the band is hitting a lot closer to a different band, one from Chicago who has actually covered a Pumpkin song before, Chevelle. So, Chevelle is one of those bands that very often gets compared to Tool due to their lead singer, guitarist, primary songwriter, Pete Loeffler's voice, and the, what I want to call, gallopy sounding riffs. Chevelle does it well, only they don't get pretentious and overblown like Tool, and are more focused on serving a great song than how, progressive that they can get. Now, this is essentially what Smashing Pumpkins have been doing when you look at tracks like The Good and Goodbye and Beyond the Veil to Empires, That Which Animates the Spirit, and Harmageddon from Acts 1 through 3 of Autumn. Now, sometimes the drums in War Dreams of Itself remind me of Shiva, but when they come in, I almost immediately hear in my head, I read people talking a lot about the vocals being weak, and especially on Who Goes There. And as far as Billy's vocals are concerned, this is how he sounded since like 2012 or so. I think if fans really truly kept up with the band's output of music since 2007 and didn't just stick to the sound of the albums from the 90s, this wouldn't be such a hot button for them to constantly push on. Now, the man's over 50, and he's not only singing properly, but still putting out a lot of new music for fans, and putting on 2 to 3 hour long shows. How many current bands can say that they can do that? 999 is, for the most part, very modern sounding in its heaviness. In all honesty, a great deal of it reminds me of the music I've written for my band Scattered Light, and that makes me smile. In Go With the Fall, I hear a lot of people say that it reminds them of Gish-era songs, Drown in particular. And I think that has a lot more to do with the semi-distorted, clean guitar sound that actually has more in common to the guitar in Silver Sun Pickup's Lazy Eyes, really. Though not the catchiest song title, overall it sounds like a good contender to be a second single from the album. Finally, the album's closer, Renown, gives off a feel that's close to Adore with its delicate vocals, piano, electronic drums, and orchestration that adds an elevation to an otherwise somber track. Now, getting into the elements that are missing that keep this from that signature 90s Pumpkin sound really have to do with the very straightforward writing and production of the album. Gone are the layers of lush, full chords against power chords that gave the band such a large, expansive sound as well as the counter melody lines as well. These were essentially the cornerstones of the band's sound that honestly have been missing for quite some time. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but those were the essential ingredients to the band's sound that set them apart from so many of their contemporaries. So, what do I think? Is this album great? Is it okay? Is it blah, boring? Forget this. I guess it depends really on what you're looking for. I think that if you're one of those fans that just wants the same old, and desperately wants the band to put out a Siamese Dream 2, then no, you won't like this album. Personally, I haven't wanted a Siamese Dream Part 2. Ever. Nor have I expected one from the band either. The key ingredients of Smashing Pumpkins have always been Billy and Jimmy. And this album gives us that with a little bit of James Iha on guitar and I'm assuming Jack Bates on bass, with accompaniment from Katie Cole and shoegaze artist Kid Tiger. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Tigrrr. Comment below if you know how I should actually be pronouncing that. I did not look it up. Personally, I'm glad to have a guitar-driven album by the band. I'm honestly not a fan of much of the synthy-sounding music that's been put out since 2020's Sear. Billy is an incredible, just awe-inspiring guitarist to me, and it almost feels like a disservice when he doesn't put out music that reflects that. He's always kind of been an innovator with his own unique, untouchable sound and style. Like I said earlier, with this album, his guitar work is very much in the same style that he's been displaying since, Autumn. It's a much cleaner, straightforward, and streamlined sound, which isn't exactly a bad thing. When the band talks about seeing if they could go back home, I don't see that as, let's see if we can write an album that sounds like the ones they did in the 90s. I see it more as, let's go back to the way we used to write and record an album. Get in a live room, hit record, and go from there. In doing that, I feel like they've put out something that's very modern sounding and giving off a heaviness that really hasn't been put on an album by them before. And that's kind of cool. Something really cool that I noticed too is how different this album can sound from listening platform to platform. Now, I first listened to this album through YouTube on my TV. Then I listened to it through the built-in speakers on a laptop. And then I heard select tracks in my car on XM while Billy hosted a takeover of the channel Lithium. And you know what? Those songs sounded radically different in my car. Now, I don't know if these were EQ'd and edited for radio, but they actually sounded different and fuller. It made me want to go home and listen to the album on good headphones and EQ things a little bit differently. I hate when people say, keep listening to an album, it's a grower, because it feels like in forcing yourself to listen to something, you're somehow force-feeding it via repetition until you can hear it so many times that you memorize it. And that's not exactly the album growing on you. You're just memorizing it. It's like studying for an exam. You read the facts long enough and you remember them. Does that necessarily mean you're enjoying it? Well, that's my thoughts on the new Pumpkin album. What do you think? Good, okay, bad? Drop a comment below, hit that like and subscribe button, and well, you know the drill. I'm Mr. P, and I'll be seeing you soon.